can turn your video off. But thank you so much for joining us today with our Easter class. The usual view you see of my kitchen. It's but you can see all my jars. So that box is full of jars, and everything just gets filled. Nothing gets thrown away. All right. So if you're not, if you can all mute yourselves if you're not actually required to speak at the moment, that would be great.
How do I mute?
Okay, so yeah, so thanks for coming along. I'm Mandy, for those who haven't met me before, and we've got the lovely team who will introduce as we go along, or they can introduce themselves as we're going along, and we're going to just go through some Easter recipes with you today. So just another thing to think about, if you think we're having fun, which we are having fun, by the way, and you'd love to join our team, just let your consultant know, and we'd love to have you on board. There's all sorts of amazing things that you can earn as a Thermomix consultant, as well as commission. Obviously, you get this. Dear Boone, those ears are not working for you. You're allowed to take them off, okay? We have a lot of fun as a team. You learn a lot about your Thermomix, and yes, of course, there are incentives and things along the way. All right. So first of all, we are going to go directly to Irene, because she is a Greek goddess, Boone says. She's our baking goddess anyway, and she's going to show us some her tsureki.
Hi guys, I love it, Greek goddess. I'll take that. So I'm doing tsureki today, which is our Greek Easter bread. I'm doing some hot cross buns. We're going to do some cinnamon butter that we're going to I'm going to use tomorrow for the hot cross buns, but I'm just going to swap screens. Basically, I made my tsureki dough last night, so I need it from the anyone who's seen our bread classes before. I like that overnight process of popping things in the fridge. So I basically make the dough from the night before, let it rise the first time, pop it in the fridge, pull it out in the morning, let it come to room temperature. So we'll have had a second rise in the fridge, and then shape and bake. So essentially, I'll just show you, basically I made that last night and I've shaped one this morning, and that's what she's looking like, which is really nice. And she's probably more than double in size, because it's a bit hard to time these things with these videos. So I've just got some egg wash in here. Now I don't use, some people like to put milk in theirs. I don't want my tsureki getting too dark, so I don't use milk in mine. So this is just a whole egg. You can just use, if you like them a bit darker like brioche, you can just use the egg yolk. You can use milk. So essentially I just brush it really gently so I don't lose all that air. And I'm going to show you how to do this shape. So I've made enough dough for two. I'm going to show you how to make this particular shape. There's lots of ways we do them round, we do them long like this. This is just a single plait. I've never really mastered, you know, those 6 plaits and 5 plaits. There's lots of videos though on YouTube if you've got the patience to do it. But I'm quite happy with my 3s. I like doing them round as well. I'll try and show you how to do a round one with one of the little pieces I've got left. Once you've brushed it, I then take flakes. So I've got flaked almonds. You could use sesame seeds. We generally don't, but I'm just going to continue this process. So I'm basically just doing this 160 degrees into a preheated oven. So Mandy, if you want to keep going, I'm just going to finish this off. I'll get this in the oven and then come back to me when you're ready.
Irene, we'll come back to my kitchen. All right, so I'm very excited because I was going to do plain steamed salmon, and then I thought, you know what, I can use my favorite, my absolute wow recipe, which I think Robin's probably seen before. I got very excited about this one. It's been on Cookie Do not for that long, probably 2 or 3 months. And what it allows you to do, it's called a prep ahead one. It's prep ahead, eggs, salmon and chicken. Just allows you to prep all those things, and then you can use them in different recipes. So I thought, rather than just doing salmon, I might as well do the whole lot. So what I'm going to show you first is All right. I'm going to go into my week here, and I've got some of the things that we're doing today, obviously in today, but before I do that, I'm just going to literally go down to tomorrow, because we're actually going to use the chicken tomorrow in a recipe, and I'm going to use it. This is a very new recipe I just found. I can't remember. Well, we'll have a look, see if it's the UK or the US. It's not. It's the US because it's in ounces, but your Thermomix will automatically convert to ounces, so that's no problem. But I thought this chicken shawarma bowl looked really nice, and so what I have done is adapt the other recipe so that I'm getting the flavors required for this one. And the flavors required for this one is just really the chicken. So what I've done is I've marinated the chicken in the marinade here, which is lemon juice, olive oil, ground coriander, paprika, cumin, salt and pepper. So that's that one. And then if I come back to today, this is my wow recipe. I absolutely love it. It's so clever. So what I'm going to do is put in some onion. I haven't actually weighed it. It's going to be whatever. It's basically half an onion, which I've cut in half. Oh, it's pretty good. And I've got 1 garlic clove here. Dropping that in. Lid on. And then 3 seconds, speed 3. Too much there. I'm just going to put that back on. I don't know what went wrong, what happened then. Oh, it's only speed 3. It's not doing much at all. Yeah. All right. So yeah, as Boone said, normally when you're chopping up onions and garlic and stuff, it's a higher speed than that. So it's really just pulled the onion apart, but it doesn't matter because I'm not cooking that. That's gonna make stock in there whilst everything's steaming above it. So I'm going to put in my water. Okay, a little bit over, okay. And I've got my Thermomix chicken stock. So this is a little bit runnier than a lot of the stock. I can't remember what I did differently on this one, but anyway, it's all tastes the same. It's great. So the stocks I make are the vegetable stock paste because we all use that a lot, and the chicken. I have made the meat in the past, but the meat stock, but I really didn't use it very much. So and you can substitute different stocks, so that's okay. All right. So next it says herbs. I'm not doing the herbs because my chicken's got those spices on it, and they're going to drip down as the chicken cooks. So I'm not going to mix up the different flavors. I'm going to put my simmering basket in, so that's going in. And then I'm going to put my chicken in. Now the other recipe actually says chicken breast, but I had thigh because my husband did the shopping. And I asked him for thigh, so we've got thigh. But you can see that's been marinating overnight in there.
Thigh is tastier.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, thigh is definitely tastier. All right, so that's, and this recipe calls for thigh. So that's all in there. That's a little bit over. Okay. Next, well, I don't need to season it because it's got the things on it anyway. Place my Baroma dish in place. But before I do that, I'm just going to click next and just show you. Oh, I haven't lined. Actually, I should. It tells me to line my tray with baking paper, which I haven't done, but I will do that in just a sec. And then and I thought I had to put my, yeah, okay, I missed a step here. So when you're putting the Baroma in, it says place 8 eggs. But I'm only doing 4 because there's only the 2 of us and we only need 4. So I love it that it's so adaptable. And Boone is very kindly just ripping off a bit of all right, so all I've done is wet my baking paper. And the reason I am doing this with this, I don't always do it, is that I want the flavors going into my stock to be the chicken. I don't want the whole mixed up chicken and and fish mixture thing. So I'm doing that so that you can see that I've got those holes at the side here are free for the steam to come through. Actually popping that on top. So I've got my eggs in there, got my salmon on the tray, and put the lid on. 15 minutes, speed 2. Now, just to save coming back to me, I'm just going to check the details of the recipe. So I'm going to come down here, 3 little dots, recipe detail. Check it out, because I'm pretty sure all I do after 15 minutes is stir the chicken. So remove the varoma. Remembering whenever you take the varoma off, you always tilt the lid away from you so that the steam goes away from you. Pop the lid down, sit the varoma on the lid so you don't get the drips on your edge. All right. And then I'm going to stir the chicken and then I'm going to put it back on again. So that's just to show you. So it's going to be, this is going to take about 25 to 30 minutes. Coming back up the top here, I can just continue, and it's asking me to do the 15 minutes. And I'll just keep going with that other step when it happens, because we've got a lot to get through. All right. So we're now going to go back to, oh, no, we're going to Boone next. Boone is just going to show us, she's maybe different hot cross buns. I'll leave it up to her.
Okay. Now, this hot cross buns looks a little bit knobbly because there are chocolate chips in it. Normally, your buns can be very smooth and very nice looking. And like Irene said, all this takes a while to prove. So I had done it before. So what I'm going to do is to show you the icing bit, all right? So all you have to do is you follow the recipe with the flour, and I made it chocolate flavored. And you just put it through a piping bag. And that's all you do. Just bring it all the way across.
I think the big tip here is that you go across like that and you don't try and do a cross on each one.
Yeah, it's too much trouble if you do it one at a time. So it's much easier when you do it like that. And then you just go across the other way. If you find that your piping mixture is a bit too liquid, just add a bit more flour. Sometimes the recipe, is a little bit more liquid than what it should be. So you want a texture like this where you can slowly pipe it without it flowing too easily. Now they say that hot cross bun has to have a cross, but if you've got little kids, you can do it as 2 eyes, if it would come off, a little nose, a little lips. I didn't curl it enough, and then a little nose. So it's just for fun, but it's not well done. And that's all you do it continuously, and it will look really nice once it's baked. Of course, if you don't want it chocolate flavor, just do it plain, plain flour and a bit of water and a bit of a pinch of salt if you want, and that's it. You can add a bit of oil, but you don't have to. And then we will bake it, and you will see after that.
Okay. All right, we're coming back to Irene now, and she's going to talk to us all about the dough.
Great. Okay. So on my mash, I've got my, so I made a double batch of the brioche dough. The teriyaki dough, which is very similar to a brioche dough. It's actually quite a large loaf, so you could do two minis. I've kept the rest of the dough, and I've basically divided it into 3 large pieces, and I've kept some little ones just to show people how Boone was shaping her hot cross buns essentially. But before I do all that, I'm just going to start with the hot cross bun dough. So this is your traditional, lots of fruit filling version. So let's go through. So I've basically just got the hot cross bun recipe out of the Everyday Cookbook. Now, in my Mandy, the Thermomix toolkit is still part of the purchase offer this month. Yeah, so there's a peeler in that toolkit. We can talk about the purchase offer later, but basically, if you have a look at the orange peel that's come off, there's really no pith left on that, so there's no white, so we're getting orange. So we use it really finely gently to do that. So the recipe calls for, you know, zest of half a lemon, and I'm just using about a quarter from a lemon, and I'm using some from an orange. Now, in order to grind this down, whatever recipe you're using, if you're adding flour or sugar, just take some of that to help this grind down to a really fine zest. If you don't do that, you'll get chunks. I mean, I guess you could buy a zester, but you don't need to. So I'll show you how this actually works really, really well. So I'm just going to pop those in. So that's my peel going in. I think it says add about 100 grams of the baker's flour. So this is the half a kilo that I need for this recipe. So I'm going to put in the 100. Close enough. You could literally use, you know, a couple of teaspoons of sugar as well if the recipe calls for some sugar, so you can do it in that part as well. Next. And basically what you end up with is an infused sugar, or in this case, an infused flour. And there is absolutely no chunks whatsoever. So just as you would in terms of, I guess, grinding down some spices. So the recipe calls for some cinnamon, for some cloves. I've used allspice in mine as well. That's exactly how I would have ground them down in order to get a really fine spice. In this case, I've done it with the flour. Now, the next part of the recipe asks for 250 grams of full cream milk and a tablespoon of dried instant yeast, or 40 grams of fresh yeast. So essentially a tablespoon is about half. So where you're using fresh yeast, double the quantity of the dried yeast. To save me that step, what I've done is I've taken the milk, warmed it up, and added the yeast and let it sit. And what you end up with is this kind of gluey substance. So I'm just basically going to skip that step because I don't need to do that, because that would have gone for about 3 minutes to pull that through. So that's going in now with that zest and flour. It's asking me for the rest of the flour. So that's going in now. My salt I've put in here as well. So there was a pinch of salt, so that's going in. The salt's there. The butter, ready to go. I've softened that to room temperature. Caster sugar is here. My egg, 1 egg. And so then there's my spices. So my cinnamon, my nutmeg, my cloves, and I've actually used a little bit of allspice as well. So they go in. Six seconds. Just enough time for all that to come together. I've left my spatula inside, so you'll see that. It's just asking me to scrape down the sides. And I thought, in keeping with the theme, I'm using my bunny spatula. So that's done. And that's going to need, so it's asking me for all of my fruit. Now, it asks for 100 grams of sultanas and 70 grams of currants. I've got in here, I've got some candied peel, sultanas, currants, and I've got some cranberries. You can use whatever you've got, but I do like to mix the fruit. That's going to need for 2 minutes. And while it does that, hopefully you can hear me, and I'm just going to swap screens. Excuse the wonky vibrating their camera. Okay, so in terms of the hot cross buns, obviously I like to weigh my dough so they end up being nice and even. this dough's been in the fridge. So let's think of that as being the one that's come out overnight. So in order to get that shape, I want to bring those ends together and kind of fold that bottom. And I'm using the mat, so this is our thermo mat, to bring that ball towards me. So I get that really nice, even round shape. Do the next one. So just bring those corners in. I'm squeezing out any pockets of air. Flip it, and then just use the mat to roll and pull towards you. And I'm not holding it really tight, so it's got room to move. Get my second ball. Now this is much easier, obviously, with this dough. Once the fruit's in there, it's a little bit harder to work with, but don't stress too much about it. So we'll do that properly. You can always redo this. So go through them the first time. Third ball. So they're ready to start proving. Okay, let's do my chureki. So I flatten this out, and the reason I do that, same reason, I want to get all that air out. I then start to roll this towards me, and I'm pushing this part down in order to ensure that I'm getting a seal and I'm not getting any air. Okay, sorry. My dough's done. Forgot what camera I was on. That dough's ready to go. So basically all I'm going to do is I'm going to let that rise the first time. That's going to go in the fridge tonight, and then I'll be up at some obscene hour in the morning to bake them. Ready nice and hot when I get to work. You can all come to Hawthorn tomorrow morning at Creswick if you want to have a hot cross bun. So I really like this. If you do brioche dough or even the tsureki dough and you try and knead it or try and shape it, it really, it's quite stretchy and it's really sticky to work with. The beautiful thing about the butter and having it in the fridge, same with the hot cross buns, is that this will harden and that butter will harden, and it makes it so much easier to work with. But you need to let it relax. So I've gone as far as that's not giving for me. So I'm going to move to the next piece. Flatten it out. I'm just squashing, roll, squash, roll, squash. This has just come out of the fridge. I probably should have pulled it out a little bit earlier. It's not moving. So you've got to just let it rest, yeah? Just give it the time it needs to relax and it'll stretch. And because this is taking a little while, I might come back to this, and we're going to pretend these are my big strands. So I think I'll be able to relax these a little bit quicker than these other ones. So the tsureki recipe calls for a couple of ingredients. Some a lot of people obviously wouldn't carry unless you're, I guess, culturally doing the tsureka. So we're talking about things like masticha and mastic. Multitask. So this is, oh, no, it's not. This is mastic. They're like hard balls. They come from the island of Sia. It's a sap from a tree. It's actually used in chewing gum. Has quite a distinctive flavour. Again, you'll get it from most Greek delis.
I got mine from the Royal Nut as well, Irene.
Yeah, so the other one is called pure Machlepi. So you'll actually see that it's actually quite dark. Machlepi is actually ground up wild cherry seeds. When it's been ground into a really fine powder, it looks really pale, so it's got a very light colour. Don't buy too much of it. It does lose its intensity. I think Mandy had some from the last time she made it. It's expired. Don't stress, just use double the quantity. So it's like any spices that are pre-ground. They just start to lose their intensity. So I'm going back to the first piece. So you can see it's giving me more stretch. Go to the next piece. giving me more stretch than the next one. Give them a minute. I'm going to go back to my big one. So you get the idea, yeah? So you just got to give them the time they need to relax. And just keep going back to them and they will stretch. And that contraction is normal because it just needs to relax. I'll go back to this one. I just really want to show you that plait. And then I'll maybe come back once I get the big one to relax. I'll show you how I do it in a circle. Any questions? I'm not reading the screen, Mandy. Is there anyone asking about anything?
No, you're doing an amazing job as always with a great explanation. Thank you very much.
All right, so
Boone was right about you being a Greek goddess.
okay, so basically when I'm doing my plait, I crisscross. And I just pinch those pieces together, come across the other side and just keep going, yeah? Crisscross. Actually, I think I buggered that up. I did bugger that up. Crisscross, crisscross. And like I said, there's so many patterns you can follow online. When I do those ends, I pinch them together and I roll them so I get a thinner piece, and this piece I tuck in underneath, you know, lift and tuck, and that way you get that perfect shape without having funny ends. So that's how I do that long log, and I've got to turn the oven down because it's colouring a little bit too quickly. But guys, if you want to come back, no, should I do the butter now or later?
You can do it now if you like.
Yeah, sure. I'll do that really quickly. I'm just going to turn my oven down so I don't end up. Okay, cinnamon butter. So I don't have I guess a set recipe for this one. It kind of goes by flavour. So, and I can assure you it's probably one of the best parts of having a hot cross bun. So I've got a block of butter here that's been softened. Goes straight into my Thermomix. Oh, sorry, swap screens. Pardon me about that. Let's do that properly. Sorry, guys. I have a block of butter that I've softened and popped straight into the Thermomix bowl. To that, I am adding a neutral oil. I like to use grapeseed oil. You can use, I guess, anything that has a neutral flavour. I don't like using olive oil. I think it can overtake the flavour a little bit too much. I'm adding some honey. And again, you know, you can't take it out, so maybe go easy initially. And you can always add some more. And of course, some cinnamon. And feel free to use whatever spices you like to use. I like cinnamon. And of course, just a pinch of salt as well. I think a pinch of salt helps. So without the whisk or the butterfly, pop that on. About speed 4, I start off with. So in about 5 seconds, we're sitting at about that. So I reckon about 10 seconds ought to do it. I'm just going to scrape down a little. And really, all I'm looking for is just to make sure that that butter is nice and smooth before I start whisking it. Yep, which cooked it is, so it's lovely and creamy now. My butterfly goes in. Remember, you can't use it above speed 4. Pop that back on. And this is where you just keep an eye on it. I take the measuring cup off, put my hand sort of just over the top, just so that it doesn't, I don't wear it basically, or it ends up on the cupboard. So I do this at speed 4. And the colour will change just like as if you were creaming butter and sugar. After about 10 seconds. You can see the colour is starting to change. And another 10 seconds, we're ready to go. So this is where you would tweak it. So taste it, add some salt, add a little bit more cinnamon, a little bit more honey, okay? And I'll come back and I'll send some round to you, Mandy, so you can have it with your hot
That's all right. No, Boone says it's sinful.
Oh my God, this is like you've literally put dollops and dollops of this on your hot cross buns. And honestly, when I make this every year, they're like, "Are you're bringing the butter, yeah?" So I'm like, "Of course."
I'm sure it tastes wonderful.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, no, really good.
All right, I'm going to keep going. Thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you. All right, isn't she amazing? All these little tips and tricks and hints and things you get from Irene. All right, so I'm just going to quickly show you a little bit on Cookie Do. Actually, everybody here, is there anyone who doesn't actually own a Thermomix? Or anyone who wants to see anything to do with the TM6 particularly? I mean, you're seeing it in action, but pop in the chat box if you don't own one. But I'm going to share my screen and just go into Cookie Do because I love looking at what new collections there are, and there've been a whole heap. So we've got naturally dyed Easter eggs. We're going to go to Pearl shortly, and she's been doing some great work with Easter eggs. But this is a collection. So the way you get to this is I went into my filters, I scrolled down. There's 2 ways you can find all the English recipes, but to find the collections, you really need to just tick these countries. And then when you come back, you make sure on your collections rather than recipes. If I go recipes, it will be those recipes that come up first, but by collection, you'll find these new collections. So we've got, this is all naturally dyed Easter eggs, 5 different colors. So that's a bit of fun. I'm thinking of trying some of that on Easter Saturday, get my daughter over here. We'll do a mother-daughter bonding thing. Then we've got these protein power bowls, and this is where I found that recipe that I'm going to use for my chicken. Where's my chicken one gone? There, the chicken shawarma bowl. So yeah, I just love going in here and looking and seeing what's available. So we've got the best of Easter, that's another new one. We've got Easter around the world, that's in Australia. This is a great one for anyone who's dairy free. There's some amazing looking milks in here, 13 different milks, and they've also got flavors in them. And a meal replacement, but the cashew coconut milk, there's cinnamon macadamia nut milk. So, and some of these milks, some of them like the cashew and the macadamia and the cashew coconut, I don't think they actually require a nut milk bag. So they are very, very easy to make. Not that it's hard to use a nut milk bag, but they are less messy, put it that way. So always worth going in and checking. If you're on my Facebook group, you'll see that I always find these things. I'm always putting up new ones. Haven't put the first 2 in. Mindfully Mediterranean is another really good one. I've made a dish from here. I made this Mediterranean chicken twice. Had people here for dinner last night. Absolutely loved it. And the last time I made it, the only thing you need to be a little bit careful of is your chicken. And the first time I made just for my husband and I, and the chicken was a little bit tough. So what I actually did was use one of those meat mallets and just beat the chicken a little bit before I baked it, and it was perfect. There's some really beautiful, look at this, Irene, for you, Greek stuffed chicken and Greek rice. So there's some really beautiful recipes in there. And I think you were talking about this one, Boone, weren't you? You want to try is it the green shushushka? Yes. So lots of, look at a seed cracker, all sorts of amazing things. So always worth going in, looking at seeing what the most recent recipes are. And this one is also another one for babies. This is from the UK, and it's all about weaning your baby off, but it's got 50 something recipes in it, I think. Let's have a quick squiz in here. 60 recipes. It's got some baby foods, but then it's also got some beautiful foods that would be absolutely great for all of us anyway, so adults as well. So never discount the baby food ones. All right, so if you decide you actually want to save one of these whole collections, you can go into a collection and you can actually go, where's it gone? Oh, it's because I've saved it already. Okay, thanks, Boone. Let's have one. I know I haven't saved this one, so I can go into, oh, maybe I have. I've saved so many. I think I probably saved that one too. Oh, that's, I probably haven't saved lunchbox. Oh, it's not showing up. Yeah, maybe it's because I'm sharing my screen. But at the top right-hand side, there's usually a button there that says save, and you can just save the whole collection. All right, and then if you go into my recipes, then I have my saved collections in here, and there's some great ones in here. But we've got, yeah, the best of Easter, everything Easter. There's so many Easter collections. Our Easter menu, our basic cookbooks, but that's where you find them. So if you want to save a whole collection, that's absolutely how you can do it. Of course, if you just want to save a recipe, then you can, let's go back here. Just go explore. Okay, so you might want to think, have a go at these brioche hot cross buns or the chocolate Easter egg. So if we look at the chocolate Easter egg, I can click on here and I can just go add to collection. I can add it to an Easter collection I want to make myself. I can add it to my week if I want to make them. Just really quickly, we're not doing chocolate today, but there was a bit of discussion about this on our branch page the other day, Facebook page. And it tells you exactly how to temper your chocolate and make your Easter eggs and fill them with lollies, and then you actually put them into the on a very low oven, just so that the chocolate, the edges of both halves warm a little bit, and then you can stick them together with lollies inside. So if you want to have a go at that and make your own Easter eggs, give it a whirl. All right, I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. Now, does anyone have any questions about Cookie Doo? If you do, pop them in the chat box. Otherwise, I think we might keep going and head over to Pearl.
Hey everyone, today I'm going to do some fun thing. I already made some earlier, and I had my, like Mandy said, daughter-mother bonding session. So we made some on Saturday or Friday evening. And I'm going to show you all how I'm going to make some more today. So today I'm going to make one which is a natural dye with cabbage, and the other one is the food coloring. Firstly, I have boiled my eggs on the Thermomix with the egg boiler mode, and it's easy. So I boiled 6 eggs and I have made 4, and I'm going to make 2 today. So I'll just show you. This is what I have just put an egg here in this. This takes a little longer. This is the cabbage that I've shredded and boiled, and I put my egg. It's going to turn blue. The purple cabbage turns blue, which is amazing. I put some paper on my bench tops to make it clean. Like it won't stain my bench top. So now let me start. Just take a glass. I'm going to put some red color. Put about a teaspoon of red color. Put some vinegar. If you want it brighter, put extra vinegar. So I'll just put about a teaspoon, more than a teaspoon. Put some hot boiling water. Because I have pre-boiled my eggs, I'll just use a kettle. And then you can decorate your eggs. I've just put rubber bands around my egg to give me the design. I have some of them, I have put a flower inside and tied it with a cheesecloth and then put them in. So I'll show you all the ready eggs that I've already made. So I'll just dip this in, leave it for some time, and that will be done. So I was just trying to find out why they dye eggs for Easter, because I didn't know. So I've came across something in Orthodox and Easter Catholic churches. Easter eggs are dyed red to represent the blood of Christ. The future symbolic being found in the hard shell of the egg, symbolizing that it is the sealed tomb of Christ, the cracking of which symbolizes Jesus's resurrection from the dead. So it's quite interesting.
Wow, fantastic. Thanks, Pearl.
No worries. Carry on with someone else because I'll have to wait for a little while to show the color of my egg.
All right, we'll come back to me for a minute. Okay. Actually, we might go to Nicole, because Nicole's got to do a little bit of
Okay.
Oh, hang on, that's me.
Excellent, thanks, Mandy. So today I'm making the Easter carrot cheese dip. Now, there's only 3 of us here, so I've actually halved the recipe from Cookie Do because we won't eat that much dip. But it's obviously really easy to adapt the recipes to suit your family. Now, the first thing it's asking me for is 200 grams of red Leicester cheese cut into pieces. I've cut that up already, and I'm just doing, I've got 150 grams there. So that's all right. The cheese is going on the outside. So all of the ingredients for the middle of the dip, I've halved, and the cheese on the outside, I'm doing a little bit extra just so it's extra. And we'll go next. And we're just going to grate that up. So it'll be noisy just for a moment. 5 seconds at speed 7. Great. Now you can see that that's really grated it down. Unfortunately, it's a little bit warm in here, so it's a little bit softer than we would have liked, but that's okay. It'll still work for the recipe. I'm just going to pop that into a bowl and we'll move on with the next step. It's really quite soft, actually. So that would be much better to grate straight out of the fridge. All right, so that's a very important lesson learned. That was much more difficult than it needed to be. But now we've got 1 carrot. I've got about half a carrot that I've already cut into pieces there. So we'll pop that in. I've got 2 spring onions that I've sliced up into little pieces. Actually, I forgot to halve that, so I won't put it all in. And then we're going to pop the lid back on. And we're going for 5 seconds on speed 5. Now it's just asking me to scrape down the sides. Oh, and that's looking lovely, nice, and you can see it's done a great job of breaking that up for us. There was a little bit of cheese left in the bowl, so it is exceptionally orange for us.
Nothing wrong with extra cheese.
Exactly. I'm never going to argue about extra cheese. We're going to pop the lid back on and go for another 3 seconds at speed 5. And we'll scrape it down again. That's really, really fine now, so that's perfect. That will be lovely. So just give it a good scrape. Put it back on. And we're going to add the reserve cheese now. Well, some of the reserve cheese. And we're going to add just normal cream cheese, which I've got here already weighed out to be about half. Some Dijon mustard, which I've already got here. Half a teaspoon of garlic powder, which I've already measured out. We've got half a teaspoon of paprika. Some sea salt, which I'll just grate in there because we are only after, I only want about half a teaspoon. And some black pepper. Again, that's just a pinch we want in there. We don't want it to be too overpowering. We'll pop the lid back on. And we're going for 15 seconds at speed 3. Now it's certainly sounding more dippy. And that's looking lovely in there. So now all I'm going to do is scrape that out and pop it onto a plate to present. So if you want to come back to me a little later, I'll have it ready.
Thanks, Nicole. All right, so I'm just going to quickly show you my finished, and I'm going to show you what I've done with it. So remember, I had the onion and the water and the garlic in the bowl. I had that chicken that I'd marinated overnight in the simmering basket. Then I had eggs in the Varoma dish and fish on the Varoma tray. So I also mentioned I was going to have to come back and I did 15 minutes. Then I took the Varoma off, then actually stirred the chicken and popped it back on. And then it was another 5. So in that 5 minutes, what I actually did was I added a bit of asparagus in the side here, because the recipe I've started to use for the chicken is this one. And we had people for dinner last night, as I mentioned, and so I had some leftover potatoes, but otherwise I'll show you the recipe on Cookie Do in a minute. But this it's normally boiled potatoes, but I had boiled and roasted these, so I've just halved them. I've got the salmon on there, I've got a bit of asparagus and a little bit of a sauce that you can that's in the recipe, and I'll show you the recipe in just a second. So I've got that meal out of it. All right, now I've got my chicken here, which I've emptied the bowl. I'll show you the stock in a minute. I've also got my hard-boiled eggs. So my hard-boiled eggs I can turn into, you know, sandwiches. I can have them with a salad. I can have them for breakfast, Michael Mosley style, etc., etc. My chicken, what I'm going to do, I've just drained it because the bottom of the simmering basket was sitting just in the stock. So I'm popping that back in here, and I don't know if you all know this, but that's all that recipe. It's to shred your chicken, because I'm going to use that in that shawarma bowl. It is literally 4 seconds, speed 4, reverse. Shredded chicken. Perfect for salads. If you, if you want to do something more Asian style, you would just look for more of an Asian chicken salad recipe on Cookie Do and just use those flavorings. So it's really easy to adapt this recipe. That's why I think it's such a wow recipe. The other thing I've been left with, of course, is my stock. And this stock, I've got all of that. And this is a nice little jug you can get from the mix shop, which will keep your sauces warm, but that is also full. So it's made a whole lot of stock, and now I just need to look for a recipe on Cookie Do, like a soup recipe that I can use that in. So this recipe still wows me. All right, I think this is one of my favourite recipes. They all laugh at me because I go on about it all the time, but I do think it's an incredible recipe. It's so flexible. There's all sorts of different things you can use it in. And before I forget, I'm just going to show you the salmon recipe. Got it in my week. On the bottom here. So it's basically a salmon asparagus potato salad. So that's what I've used that salmon. Actually, just very quickly, we're going to go back. I think, Irene, do you want to show us something else? No, hang on, you're on mute.
Sorry, I'm happy to show people how I make my round one.
All right, let's go back to you.
So what I find is when you try and do like a plait and bring it back together, you get a very messy end. Some people still do it that way and obviously make it long enough to bring it back around and then pop their egg there so that it hides that seam. The way I like to do it, because I don't necessarily put eggs in mine, is I basically put those 3 pieces back together and I've created the massive sausage essentially. That's pretty even. I basically make a circle from that piece, and that kind of determines the width of the one I'm going to make. As again, I've kind of thinned out that end, and I'm just going to chuck that underneath just for a second. I then basically, I knot it in on itself. So I basically just pull it through and just twist it in on itself. Around and around and around and around. And then I join those 2 pieces back together again. I'll neaten it up, but that's how I end up without having a seam on an end, and I make sure that that's really pinched properly and tucked in underneath. And while we're doing this, because I want to use the same piece of paper so we're not wasting anything, she's all baked.
Looks amazing.
Guys, this is massive. So I guess 2 batches for me would make 3 standard tsurekia size. But if you want to make some small ones, 1 batch of dough, turn it into 2 loaves would be absolutely fine. Because that's probably longer than I would traditionally make for our tsurekia. But honestly, it's the main thing is to do exactly what I did with the cross bun dough, whether it's lemon zest, in this case, the rock hard masticha, put that in with some sugar or some flour to mill it down. If you're going to use whole spices, because you can find the Machlepi, you can find the seeds whole as well. And I prefer to do that because I know I'm getting that really lovely, authentic, beautiful, intense flavour from freshly ground spices. And I just mill it down with some of the sugar or some of the flour that's going to go into my dish. So I'm just going to keep shaping this. Oh, and here's my butter.
Oh, that looks incredible.
I'm going to pop it in the fridge. I'm going to re-whip this tomorrow morning.
Can you just pop in the chat box your quantities, please?
For the butter?
Yes, please.
I didn't. I don't.
Oh, you didn't do quantities?
No, it's just, I do it based on flavour. So it's purely, I've just used a block of butter. That would be enough. I guess it depends on how much you like to eat. Probably enough for 1 person in the office. But basically, I just use a block of butter, a pinch of salt, no more than say a pinch of salt. I tried to do it with salted butter 1 year. I just found it was probably a little bit too salty. And then I basically put in around a tablespoon of the honey and a good teaspoon of the ground cinnamon. Once it
not the best, but
first time, I then tasted it and then I added more. So I tweaked it a little bit just to give me a bit more intensity. So just honestly do less. And then
tell Dad, I don't know. How am I meant to know? I don't know anything about that.
Someone's not on mute.
Oh, so hard.
Oh, sorry, guys.
Sorry, we mooted it.
Yeah, okay, and then you use the butterfly.
Sorry?
And you use the butterfly.
Yeah,
Sorry, I think I
so
was
the
doing
butter goes in first, so you whip it on the blades just to get a really nice smooth consistency. Oh, and sorry, of course, I added maybe a tablespoon, maybe a little bit less. Depends on how soft the butter is, and that keeps it spreadable. Yeah, so it's exactly like they do with margarine. It has a vegetable fat in it. It's the same thing here, so it doesn't solidify really, really hard. So in the morning, it should still be as smooth as margarine, essentially. I may not need to re-whip it, but I like to get that aeration in it. It really, it's like having whipped, oh my God.
I'm going to have to try that too.
It's divine. You've got to give it a go.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for that. I think Nicole looks like she's ready. So we'll come back to Nicole.
Yes, I'm back. I have our carrot dip.
That's
Seems
amazing.
pretty stuck to the board. So it's I think it would be much easier if you weren't pushed for time to put that cheese back into the fridge. So when it's grated, it's a little drier, because this was very wet and very fiddly. So it's not
so
Oh,
as refined as I would like, but it's certainly a carrot.
Yeah, it is certainly a carrot. Well done. And and that's a great tip. So that's one of the things about these classes, which I think is great, because we all learn things, as we're going along too. So a great tip to pop your cheese back in the fridge and let it dry out a bit. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Nicole. That looks amazing.
No worries.
We'll go back to Pearl, because Pearl didn't show us all her eggs.
I will show you my eggs. Yeah. This is the one that is just
show us your eggs, Pearl.
I will. This is the one that I've just done.
Oh, look. Oh.
And I'm just taking off the rubber bands and see. You can do a lot of fun things. Do whatever. Be very creative. This is what?
That's very
This
clever.
is the one that I have. Yeah, the one that I put the cabbage on.
Yeah.
So this is actually you have to keep it longer if you want it more blue.
Yeah.
And these are all my eggs that I have made
So pretty.
with my daughter.
Yeah.
See, this one was turmeric.
Wow.
Yellow. This one was red, and we put a leaf in it.
Yeah.
With a cheesecloth. This one was with tandoori masala.
Ah.
So it gave.
Of course.
And we put a flower there.
Really?
This was green color. Yeah. And this was a green color, food color. So
Yeah.
these are my eggs.
Fantastic, Pearl. Thank you so much. That's amazing.
And if I can do it, you all can do it, because I'm not artistic and I don't have too much of patience. So I'm sure every one of you all can do a much better job.
Oh, I think you've done an amazing job. And I'll tell you what I like. I'm a bit the same, but I think the elastic band thing is fantastic, because it's very easy to do.
Yeah.
That looks really impressive. Thank you, Pearl. That's amazing. Now we haven't seen Burns hot cross buns either, so we'll come back over here. And I've got one before we see before Boone shows us her buns. I'm just going to show you this. Now this is available in the mix shop, and this is something else I'm very excited about, and it's really wowed me. So we were in the bush week before last, and this is all I used to drink out of. So it's one of those cups. Looks like it needs a wash from coming back from the bush, but it's one of those mugs that you can put hot drinks in, but it's not hot to hold. So I had tea in here, I had water in here, I had gin and tonic in here, I had wine in here. I've got to be careful with the wine because it's a big cup, but it also has this lid. So if you are out in the bush, say if you're out having a picnic or anything like that, you can put your lid on. And we had some little black flies that were around, and my husband's, he was getting them in his wine because he wasn't using this. And I could put this on, open this up, have a little slurp, close it. But what I just love about it is the flexibility for every type of drink. So just thought I'd share that with you, another little excited Mandy moment. Anyway, we're going to come over to Boone. Here are her buns.
Here we
Look
go.
at those.
I've just glazed it with maple syrup. Now, unfortunately, my cross face didn't work out too well because it was a bit too runny. But here we go. But if you don't use it, so if you don't have such a runny mixture, it's fine. And I'll just break one up for you and show you how soft it is in there.
Oh, look at
And
that.
just look at it. And all the chocolate chip yummies.
Smells so good too.
Okay.
I might have to break the gluten-free thing for a half a
Yes, you
hot
can.
cross bun.
Have one.
All right. So do any of you have any questions at all? You can come off mute if you've got questions now. If not, thank you so much for coming along. Really good to see you all. And yeah, you know, get in contact with your consultant if you've got any questions about anything. And you know what? I was thinking the other day, I talked to quite a few people, obviously, and a lot of people say to me, you know what? I don't think I use my Thermomix enough. I don't use it to its full potential. If that's you, then get your consultant to come over and do a cooking experience for you. You can choose the recipes. Obviously, it's got to be within a, you know, it's not going to be a 2-hour recipe. But, you know, look at the, we can have a look, we can sort stuff out together that, that will help you learn and get more of the use out of your Thermomix. If you're not using your Varoma, we'll do a Varoma dish. If you're not making bread and you want to make bread, we'll do bread. So, so please, you know, think about that rather than thinking, oh, I could be using it more, I'm feeling a bit guilty. Get some help. And if you'd like to join in the fun and the in-jokes, come and join the team. We'd love to have you. And hope you all have a really lovely Easter and a safe one. And lots of hot cross buns and eggs. All right, thank you so much.
Thanks, Mandy.
Pleasure. Well done, everybody. And Pearl, your eggs were great.
Oh, yeah, I know. I'm quite impressed with myself because I'm not a very artistic person.
Yeah, no, they look fabulous. Well done. Yeah.
Nice.
And these are making the Portuguese green eggs.
Ah,
That's the one, yeah.
oh, that's the one, Portuguese.
Tell me how it goes for you, Paul.
Sure. Yeah.
And Nicole, that looks fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty effective. But the cheese got far too warm because I had it ready before we started. And yeah, I think if it had come straight from the fridge, it would have been much, much better because that was nightmarish to try and break up and put on.
Good idea of showing it too. Very nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Mandy,
Yes.
just a tip I should have mentioned. If you go to the Tureki recipe on Cookie Do, just to show everyone what it looks like.
Okay, hang on.
Okay. See how that's really stretched all the way through? It's not meant to look like that. That's been underproofed, yeah?
Okay.
So potentially it's dried out and it's been put in a hot oven and it's got nowhere to go, so it has to tear. You come back to screen.
Oh, also, Irene, I think when you blend
See how
it,
there's
make it
no
a bit
gaps?
tighter. Yeah.
There's no gaps.
Yeah.
That's because it's proved properly before it's baked. So if you
beautiful.
want to avoid having those gaps,
Thank you.
it'll still taste the same. So
Yeah, no, but it looks really pretty.
That's it's pretty. Yeah, Mum gets really fussy